Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers about their lives in and out of the ring, as well as doing acts of community service and charity work. All about the positivity here on the show, and with me today is a very special guest. He is a legend in all sense of the word. He has worked for so many different promotions and wrestled in the territories, a living legend. I'm talking about a former NWA National Tag Team Champion, former ICW United States Tag Team Champion, three-time OVW Heavyweight Champion and Southern Tag Team Champion, and he's currently the head trainer of Ohio Valley Wrestling, the one and only Rip Rogers. Rip, welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Hey, I'm here, baby. We're gonna change the world in one easy lesson.
I love that. Definitely love that. So now you grew up in Seymour, Indiana. Tell me about your childhood and upbringing.
Well, I was a fat little kid. How's that? Fat little kid, athletic as hell, but still fat little kid.
Oh.
And Seymour's the home of the largest high school gymnasium in the world. So when we was in high school, we was 57-3 in the regular seasons for 3 years. So, and this was Indiana basketball, and it was one class, not the BS. I'm gonna try not to cuss here because you're Mr. Positivity and I'm Mr. Negativity, and usually I'm nothing but the human pimple on somebody's butt, Mr. Negativity. So we'll take everything with a grain of salt. So anyway, I went to school with John Mellencamp, rock star.
Ah.
Yeah, he was in my sister's class 2 years ahead. He's on the football team with me at Seymour High School. He was a senior, and then I was a sophomore, but we go way back. I was in 2 of his videos, so it don't get any better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, John Mellencamp's such an icon. I mean, so many great hits. Small Town, Rockin' in the USA.
Human Wheels, baby.
Yeah, just so... And so smart, too, by the way. He's really intelligent.
Well, he wasn't in school. He fooled everybody, you know.
Yeah. Just America's heartland. He's really big into that heartland rock stuff. So the career,
he found his niche.
Yeah, the career he's had is amazing. It's pretty fascinating. You know, he went to school with John Mellencamp. Yeah, Indiana, a lot of sports going on there. You know, wrestling obviously was one of the pastimes, I'm sure. You know, growing up, you were a big wrestling fan?
Well, I guess I'd had to have been. The first match I seen was at Seymour High School. I was 7 years old. My grandpa, Kurt Judd, took me, and I saw Dick the Bruiser against Cowboy Bob Ellis, and I was hooked.
Hooked right away.
Hell yeah. It don't get any better than that. So when I was young, you'd have the rabbit ears on. Well, you wouldn't even know what that is. Rabbit ears on the TV. You could get a Louisville station if you adjusted it down south, and I'd get Nick Gulas' wrestling. Now I watch Dick the Bruiser's wrestling out of Indianapolis, and I'd put the antenna over to the east, and I could get the Sheik's wrestling out of Cincinnati. Then I'd put it to the west, and I'd get Phil Golden's All-Star Wrestling about midnight to 2 in the morning, coming out of Paducah, Kentucky. So it didn't get any better than that, baby.
Wow, like that's just like so much wrestling at one time. You could just flip through the different channels and just kind of like make sure the signals looked good, sounded good, and bam, you could get access to anything pretty much.
Well, no, that sounds good, but on paper, no. Usually, if you was stuck in Louisville, you got Louisville TV, which was 4 stations, and that was it.
Oh, sure.
If you was in Indianapolis, you got Indianapolis wrestling. If you was in New York City, I mean,
yeah, you get
it didn't work that way.
Yeah, you get Vince's promotion. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we grew up on, and then we'll just continue it on from here. So let's get this shit on the roll, baby.
A legacy. Wow. So you graduated from Seymour High School in 1972, went to Indiana Central College.
And
Um,
that's University. That's University of Indianapolis now. So I
okay.
play. Yeah, so I played 4 years of football there, 4 years of baseball there. But the best thing I did there is I scored 2 points in a college game. So that's what I was. Everybody from Indiana is a frustrated basketball player.
Yeah, go Hoosiers.
You got to have that. That's all we got going for us.
Okay, so you were hooked on wrestling by going to the matches. Was there a particular moment where you said, "This is what I want to do"?
Uh, I always liked it. Didn't know anything about it because the business was real closed then. Unless you were related to somebody, you knew somebody, or you was like already a celebrity, nobody would mess with you. They just beat you up and just keep beating you up, and most people would just quit. The only wrestling school I ever heard about was Vern Gagne's wrestling school. So I tried to get in there when I was in college, and he wrote me back and was getting me, and he was going to accept me. But in the meantime, I BS'd my way in, got my Carlin Hildegard, got me some boots, Carlin Hildegard trunks, and shimmer cape and everything, and started going to find out, going to different matches, bullshit my way in, and didn't know none of the terminology. About killed a couple guys the first night from beating them up so bad and stuff like that. And 3 weeks later, I'm doing WWF TV. So it's all you have to start somewhere in the wrestling business. It's like the problem is if you're real good, it's hard to get a job. If you did a great drop kick, they say no, this other guy does that, so you don't do any of it. You're left with the shit of what's left. Oh no, you're built too good, so we won't hire you. Or you wrestle too good, so you make our stars look bad, so we won't use you. Or we'll put a mask on you. Or you're a good-looking guy, so we'll put a mask on you. No,
It's a very different culture.
yeah, it's nothing. Once you get in it, it's nothing the way you would think it would be, and it takes a real trooper to make it. Unless if you're related to somebody, it's totally different.
Right. It's
But
not what you know, it's who you know.
yeah, but that's the way the whole world really is, and has always been that way. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what anybody try. Oh, you just work hard. I said, yeah, I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna play in the NBA. Right? No, I ain't no good. You know,
Yeah. It's
everybody
about
they feel,
networking, pretty
yeah,
much. Okay.
and what I was lucky is when I first started in, I met Randy Savage, and we lived together for 4 years, and he mentored me in everything. And he was a second generation wrestler, and he was a ex pro baseball player that was wrestling during the uh, off season. And then and then I always trained with weights, and he pushed me into bodybuilding contests. And then I got into bodybuilding contests and got in 12 and 18 months, which is impossible. 1, 2 with on no steroids, which is impossible. Then I got heat from it because now I'm looking real good.
It was all about like who could one up each other, right? In terms
Oh
of the
yeah,
competition.
oh yeah. He was yeah. He whether to run a 40-yard dash backwards, who could do the most push-ups, who could do the most curls, and I was real competitive too. And it was the time to let him win all the time, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't, and then he'd get mad and hold it against me.
And this was pre Macho Man, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. He was still macho. His Macho Man was when he was playing minor league baseball.
Mm.
They called him Macho Man because whenever there was a fight, he was the first one out to lead the troops out to run to the mound, or when they have a brawl, a collision at the home plate or whatever. He was there. He was the Macho Man. He was the head fighter.
See what interesting facts you can learn on Wrestling with Heart?
Yeah,
Wow.
and you ever hear of a baseball player named Eddie Murray? Got over
Yes.
500 home.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, on the rookie years, him and Randy led the minor leagues in the rookie leagues in home runs with 9.
Hmm.
So that was
That's
a claim to
unbelievable.
fame.
Yeah. And you guys worked together, wrestled did you guys tag together, wrestle each other?
Well, we was business partners together.
Okay.
The old ICW, which was an outlaw group,
Mm-hmm.
but we had at one time 14 TV markets, which is a whole lot of TV markets. It was Randy, his dad, his brother Lanny, Pistol Pez Watley, George Weingroff, Ronnie Garvin, Bob Roop, Randy Orton's dad, Professor Boris Malenko.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of talent, but the wrestling business was who had the best TV stations in the best solid time slot and had a monopoly on buildings.
Because you guys were competing against Memphis, Louisville, Evansville. It
Well,
was
that's
all
the same group.
right, but weren't you guys a different?
We were in competition with Jerry Jarrett. We were in competition
Yeah.
with Dick the Bruiser. We were in competition with Sheik. We was in competition with Bob Geigel. We was in competition with Vern Gagne.
Right.
We was against everybody.
Yeah.
Didn't give a shit.
Right. That's what I meant. Like you guys were competitors, but you were
Right.
still like in that, Memphis or Kentucky territory, that region, right? And then
Well, we was in a whole lot of people's regions.
Okay.
Most people would have a smaller area.
Right.
We were in pretty much all of Jarrett's territory, part of Bruiser's territory, part of Sheik's territory, part of Barnett's territory when they were going to West Virginia and Ohio, etc.
I got you.
So then we had TVs in Puerto Rico. We had TVs in Montana and had TV in San Francisco. So
you guys were all over the country.
Yeah, we had three. We usually ran 2 towns a night, but sometimes I remember twice on Saturdays we had 3 towns going. Like Randy'd run a town, I'd run a town, and maybe George Weingroff would run a town.
Unbelievable.
So, and we wrestled pretty much every day of the year except New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve. Usually a double show on Christmas and a double show on Thanksgiving because them are your best days of the year because people wanted to get the hell out of the house because they were sick of their relatives.
Gotta love wrestling, right?
Well, I sure did.
Yeah. So you formed the Convertible Blondes with Pez Watley and Gary Royal. Tell me about that stable. Any memories you may have of working with them?
Well, first it was me, Ricky Starr, and Gary Royal. Then Ricky went home to the Carolinas, and then Pez come in, became a Convertible Blonde. So Pez could talk that shit, and he bleached his hair blonde, and so me and him was partners, and I was a bodybuilding champion. Pez was Kentucky State powerlifting champion, and he was a big shooter from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and Gary Royal was a good mouthpiece. So we go out there and did that for a while. So that was fun.
Yeah, you guys were tag team champions, defended them successfully. Now, you also wrestled in Portland as part of the National Wrestling Alliance. What can you tell me about that?
Well, when we first started ICW, we'd made a bunch of tapes. In March 13th, 1979, in Louisville, Kentucky, we made I think it was 10 tapes. We made a WDRB studio that David Tung directed, and then so me and Randy, we all moved to Lexington because we said we threw a dart at it when University of Kentucky was there, and me and Randy lived in a place about a mile from the football stadium, so that was cool. And then so I went out, and Lanny had been wrestling out in Portland. So then he come back in and did them tapes, and then he booked me out there. So I stayed out there 5-6 months, whatever. Then I left, and Randy said to come home. Then I went out there and worked at a loser league town. Me and Playboy Buddy Rose and Ed Wiskowski took on Rowdy Roddy Piper and the 2 Bushwhackers, who were the Bushwhackers was the sheep herders there, Butch. Butch and Luke, and when I was in Portland, I used to make every trip. It was me and Buddy Rose and the 2 Bushwhackers. So that was, you talk about some crazy times. It was so much.
Oh
fun.
Yeah, I mean the Bushwhackers went on to become successful in the WWE, and they were really animated too. With them coming down like this.
Yeah, what's so funny is, for years they were the most violent wrestling team in wrestling, violent. And then they went total comedy, and made more money, and they didn't get hurt. Where all the time they was hurt all the time from beating the shit out of each other. Now all of a sudden they're doing total comedy and Butch and Luke. They're still wrestling. They still make
Yeah.
conventions.
Yeah.
They still hang out. They still living the dream. We used to stay at the Bomber in Portland, the Bomber Hotel, and they'd always be cooking the steaks out. Oh man, we go to the gym, then we go eat the steaks, then we'd do the trip together. Man, what a good time that was. But see, wrestling used to have all the territories. So we had the territory in Portland. We had one in Vancouver, San Francisco, Los Angeles. You had one in Dallas. You had one in fucking Houston. You had one in Kansas City. You had Gagne's. You had Stu Hart. You had Montreal. You had the Maritimes. You had Newfoundland. You had Eddie Graham in Tampa. You had Crockett's. You had the old WWF. You had the Bruisers in Indianapolis. You had the Sheik in Detroit. You had Muchnick in St. Louis. Yeah. Then you had Watts. First, it started out with just Leroy.
Mid-South.
And then then from Oklahoma, then it was added into Watts. And then you had two promotions going for a while in Atlanta. Then you had Pensacola territory, and in Knoxville you had Fuller in there, and then you had Nick Goulas in Nashville and Jerry Jarrett in Memphis. And if you know your wrestling shit, you know all the territories, you know all the stories, you know how you'd cross angle, you know how you'd steal different ideas, you know how it was like the mafia, and and you'd see somebody and you'd be with them 5 years later. You'd be talking about the stories, about the rats, the angles, the different, and it was just the greatest shit in the world.
It's crazy. I mean, you can't get away with a lot of that stuff today. It's all
you can't do anything
different.
in this world.
It's so different. And I mean, but I gotta ask though, do you feel that the territories are something that you miss? Do you wish that there was something like the territories today?
Well, who wouldn't? If you love wrestling, there used to be about 800 guys in the United States and Puerto Rico and Canada that wrestled full time, and they weren't guys that got off WWE. They can make a star out of anybody. You can be the world's greatest wrestler or the world's shittiest wrestler. It don't really matter. It don't matter. Vince McMahon knows how to make money. Hell, he drew money with the Ultimate Warrior, who's the world's worst wrestler. Couldn't do anything, but he took that great body and made it up tempo and made him a happening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he can make a star out of anybody. He's got the resources. He's got that television. He can shove somebody down your throat no matter how you are. They think you're the world's greatest wrestler.
Well, it's fascinating, about the territories and that there was a lot of variety. I mean, I guess you could say today.
Oh, yeah. Every territory was different. Never in my life did I get in a ring and go over your promo. No, I know what to say. Here's my bullet points. Here's my town. I'm going to have to do 10 promos in a row with different markets and stuff. Then wrestling, we'd have weekly towns. You have weekly towns. You can't go through with that same old shit that you're doing. You got to treat it like a contest. Sometimes you're getting your ass beat. Sometimes you're beating the shit out of them. You can't go with a set routine. You don't get in a ring and go pre-plan a match. Hell no. That was taboo. I teach guys. Shit, I had guys have 2-hour matches called in the ring.
2-hour matches.
2-hour matches. Yeah, I had guys that were students doing 90 minutes in a seminar. You can go right now and just Google or YouTube it or whatever the hell it's called. And Rip Rogers 90-minute student match or whatever. It'll show you guys wrestling 90 minutes old style called in the ring. And I said, boys, you're going 90. Go do it. And that's it. And everybody I teach could fucking do that. I did it every day in practice. We're practicing strikes every time. We do high spots every day. We do false finishes every day. We're working every body part every day. Holds, counter holds, strikes, different kind of false finishes. How to work at different stages in the match. Once you start selling, you don't get all of a sudden all this energy again. No, you treat it like a contest. It's the third quarter. It's the 8th inning. This is the fourth quarter in football. We're dead ass tired. We show emotion. We show intensity. We have characters out here. Nobody gives a shit about the wrestling. It's the characters. It's John Wayne against some other heel or whatever it is. It's Superman against Mr. Mc, whatever that little midget was he was always running from in Superman. It's Batman against the Riddler. We got characters. It's all emotion. It's the threat of something. Guys don't get it. Oh, I got all my shit in. Oh, I said, in other words, you tried to pin me 32 times and you couldn't. Then I beat you. How fucking rotten are you?
Well, you have a great point there. I think it is about the characters and about the story, because that's what gets you invested in your product. If you don't have that, how do you expect people to care?
Nobody will care. And according to the ratings today, nobody does give a shit. Nobody cares. I was in England. I was in Austria. I was in Germany, Japan, Korea, South Africa. I mean,
and they've got a lot of great styles too.
Yeah, every place was different. So you could go somewhere else and learn I wanted to go to Mexico because I wanted to learn lucha. It's all different. And now everybody works the same, which is horrible. When you go to the buffet, everybody don't eat chicken. Somebody wants a hot dog. Somebody wants roast beef. Somebody wants a hamburger. Somebody wants steak. Somebody wants turkey. You got to give them the circus. You don't have 10 fat women or sword swallowers. You got to give them the whole thing. You give them the midgets, the giants, the sword swallowers, the jugglers, the strong man, the giant. I mean, you got to give them the whole
variety,
the whole spiel, right?
It's variety
of everything. I still love wrestling. The thing about it is, I've trained so many guys, and I said, you guys don't understand. All you got to do is do as I told you. Let everybody else do all that stupid shit. You do nothing, and just work on your character and do basics, and you will get over. You know who Serena Deeb is?
Yes.
Okay, well, I had Serena for years, and then she hooked up with Punk a thing, and they shaved her head. And then she got hurt a lot doing wrestling. She liked wrestling so much, and then she was at the Performance Center, and now she's back wrestling again, and she's got hurt again. But in the meantime, her thing was the world's greatest girl wrestler, because I trained her like a guy, treated her like a guy, could do everything a guy can do. Now just think, let everybody else do stupid shit, and you stand. Randy Orton's the smartest one. He wrestles the way you're supposed to be. Oh, it's boring. No, it's not. Everybody else is running.
He's very fluid.
Yes, he's slowing it down so you can see what's next. You can read. You can feel the anticipation of something happening.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't like, oh, every punch no, here's a glancing blow. Instead of 3 clotheslines, bump, stupid fucking feed. It's fucking Ronnie Garvin would take a tackle. He'd go to a knee. You would slide off. It ain't the same old. There's not pancake blocks in the NFL, is there? No. It ain't happening.
No.
There ain't all these punches land. No, there's got to be stuff that's a struggle. That's some stuff. It's a glancing blow. It's a miss. He almost got him. God,
yeah.
We destroy our own business by giving them too much.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.